Hello guys, welcome to my updated Raiden Shogun guide. This time specifically for Genshin version 5.0 since she just get her rerun now. In this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about Raiden Shogun, covering her builds, weapon, teams, talent, and playstyle. Especially, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of attack versus electro damage goblet for Raiden, her energy recharge requirement, and what makes her still the best unit in Genshin 5.0. So, without further delay, let's get right into it. So, starting things off, let's start with Raiden playstyle. Raiden acts as a more sub DPS before Constellation 2 and of course become more DPS-like after her Constellation 2. I wanna say that she is a true full-blown DPS since her build time is not that long. Raiden entire playstyle revolves around her elemental burst, but before we talk about that, let's quickly talk about Raiden elemental skill first. This is a very simple elemental skill. Basically, you just press it and for every attack your enemy receives, it will deal additional electro damage to your opponent, kinda like how Albedo works. However, Raiden elemental skill comes with special benefit. When this skill is active, all your party members will gain elemental burst damage bonus based on their elemental burst energy cost and this elemental skill talent level. So for example, if you use Xiangling elemental burst with level 9 talent or higher, you will get about 27% elemental burst damage since her elemental burst cost is 90. I will put on screen now some example of how much damage buff this skill can give you to give you an idea of how much this skill gives to your party. On top of that, your elemental skill buff lasts for 25 seconds and only has a 10-second cooldown, so it is 100% guaranteed to be up. So to summarize Raiden elemental skill, have two purposes, doing additional electro damage and buffing your teammate elemental burst. Now, since you must have got an idea of Raiden elemental skill works, let's move on to her elemental burst. Raiden elemental burst is the central part of her kit and actually the reason of why she is so good even until version 5.0. Simply, her elemental burst will infuse her attack with electro damage, while at the same time, for every time you hit with Raiden Shogun in her elemental burst, you will restore energy for your party. Something to note is that Raiden elemental burst will be increased based on how many elemental bursts you use before Raiden elemental burst. So, the way this works is that every time your party member use elemental burst, Raiden gains resolve stack based on energy cost of their burst. So, the higher cost of your party elemental burst, Raiden elemental burst damage will increase more. In this way, you must use all of your party member elemental burst first, before lastly use Raiden elemental burst at the very end. Other things you need to know is that Raiden elemental burst has 90 energy cost, which is very high. However, on the bright side, since Raiden is a character that does want to build a lot of energy recharge, using her burst consistently is something very manageable. Things you need to keep in mind is that Raiden elemental burst lasts for 7 seconds, which means that your DPS window with Raiden is only that 7 seconds, and then you swap out to other character. As I have said earlier, that for every hit Raiden deal in her elemental burst state, she will regenerate energy for all her teammates. This specific ability scale with how much energy recharge she has, which something comes from her passive talent, Enlightened One. So, as you can see that you gain more damage and more energy restoration the higher your energy recharge is. So just to give you the math, for 200% energy recharge on Raiden, you will get additional 60% energy restoration and 40% electro damage bonus on her elemental burst. Very insane. This bonus is very nice to have, but that doesn't mean you only want to build her energy recharge only, as obviously min-maxing for crit damage still give you higher personal damage for your Raiden. Raiden other passive talent also give you more resolve stack, which means more damage for Raiden when she is using her elemental burst, when any party member collect elemental orb or particles. So it's just a nice passive effect that you don't need to worry about. Regarding talent priority, Raiden elemental burst is something you want to max first, since most of her damage comes from her elemental burst. You also need to level up your Raiden elemental skill, mainly because it buffs your party elemental burst damage. Her normal attack is something you can ignore, as your hit in elemental burst is counted as elemental burst damage, not normal attack, which means separate scalings. So your normal attack is something you don't need to level. Alright, so this section is pretty straightforward. Raiden wants much energy recharge, so it goes without saying that her best artifact set is Emblem of Severed Fate. On top of giving her pretty significant of energy recharge, Emblem Severed Fate will also give Raiden elemental burst damage bonus. The elemental burst damage bonus is maxed at 300% energy recharge, which translates to 75% elemental burst damage. Don't forget, you need to min-max your crit stats, so usually 300% energy recharge is an overkill. On top of that, this artifact domain, as many old players already know, is a very efficient domain. Since other than emblem set, you also farm Shimenawa sets in this domain, which is very good for other hyper carry team like Hu Tao. I mean, I use Shimenawa sets even today on my Hu Tao, so yes, definitely a recommended domain to farm. For artifact stats, things is pretty complicated here. Generally, you want to have energy reject Suns, electro damage goblet, and critical damage or critical red circlet. However, you will quickly run into attack problem. If you use, say, 4-star weapon or even 5-star weapon other than Raiden signature, you will get a pretty low attack on Raiden. This is why sometimes if your Raiden energy recharge is more than sufficient, you will change that energy recharge Sun into attack percentage Suns or changing your goblet into attack percentage. Of course, all of this assuming you have better substat on both. This then brings the question, how much energy recharge do you need on Raiden? For me, who has personally used her ever since her was released, my most comfortable energy recharge is around 200% to 250%. That much energy recharge, especially on the higher end, makes the rotation very smooth for me. I mean, right after you finish using Raiden Elemental Burst, you can just start using all your teammate Elemental Burst, and when you finish, Raiden Elemental Burst is up and ready again. It is a min-max situation, however, things get easier once you get Raiden signature weapon, since it provides your Raiden with attack percentage and energy recharge, which means you don't need to go for attack goblet or attack sense, and just go, as I said earlier, energy recharge Suns, electro damage goblet, and crit circlet. So for simplicity's sake, just roll for Raiden signature weapon. If you really can roll for Raiden signature weapon, you have to min-max your artifact stats more. Now with that being said, it's time to move on to Raiden weapon. So Raiden Best Artifact weapon is obviously her signature weapon, including lightning. Like I said earlier, this weapon simply makes building Raiden that much easier because attack percentage and energy recharge stat is cheap to Raiden. For me personally, I always go for energy recharge weapon for free-to-play option. So obviously, Favoni's weapon is welcome for Raiden, despite the low attack stat. Other free-to-play option is the Catcher, which I unfortunately don't have since I am very lazy to do the quest. But weapon I just mentioned all have energy recharge stats, but that doesn't mean that you can go crit stat or attack stats on Raiden weapon. You can use, for example, Staff of Homa or Primordial Jet Spear on Raiden because of how good the stat is. However, this will make building a Raiden with 200% or more energy recharge very hard. So for simplicity's sake, just go for energy charge weapon. So moving on to Raiden Constellation, I want to start by saying that Raiden is already very good at C0 and not a character what is dependent on her Constellation to disrupt her damage. The only reason you go for more Constellation is to make her from sub DPS into more of like a hyper carry role, and that is what we are gonna talk about. However, let's talk in order so that you guys are not confused. So for Raiden first Constellation, it will make you gain more resolve point, and especially for Electro Collector more than other element. This will basically make your Raiden Elemental Burst damage a little bit higher, since more resolve point means more damage to your Raiden Elemental Burst. Overall, it's not that crazy compared to what her next Constellation is. Raiden's second Constellation make her Elemental Burst ignore 60% of enemy defense, which obviously skyrocket her damage by a lot and makes her better regardless of how you play her and further emphasize her hyper carry playstyle, where her personal damage will be very high. Overall, Raiden's second Constellation is an insanely high value, but again, as I have said earlier, she is already good at C0 and doesn't really depend on her Constellation to dish out her damage. So if you are free to play or low spender, you definitely doesn't need this much Constellation. However, if you still want Constellation, I recommend very much that Raiden's second Constellation is where you stop, as it is more than enough for her. For her C3 is honestly pretty nice, since it is another additional damage to her Elemental Burst, but honestly not as crazy as her C2. Her C5 is pretty basic, just additional damage for her elemental skill damage. For Raiden 4th Constellation, it will buff all your teammate after Raiden Elemental Burst expire. So in case you are confused, simply put, this Constellation will buff all your teammate attack on your second rotation, making the overall Elemental Burst for your teammates higher starting from second rotation. So for me, this Constellation is more of a team buffing capabilities. Lastly, Raiden's 6th Constellation is very simple. Basically, for every hit Raiden does in her Elemental Burst state, decrease your party member Elemental Burst cooldown by 1 second. This might be useful in some cases, but I don't really find a way to use this particular constellation. So overall, I don't see Raiden 6 constellation as something that's very useful. Simply put, just stop at Raiden 2nd constellation. That's all, really. So many things have changed since Raiden first come to Genshin Impact. So obviously, she has more party option now. However, some team comps still persist until today. My go-to Raiden team will always be Raiden, Bennett, Xiangling, and Xinqiu. The Raiden national team. This team basically has it all. Vaporize, Electro Charge, Overload, Heal, and of course some little shield from Xinqiu. You can change Xinqiu to Yelan if you are very confident in your ability to dodge, since Yelan being 5-star obviously has higher scaling than Xinqiu. You can also change Xinqiu to Kazuha, playing more like semi-carry in some scenario where you need heavy crowd control unit in your team. So, all of that is the simplest one. For Raiden Hyper Carry, the usual team is Raiden, Sarah, Bennett, and Kazuha, emphasizing Bennett, Sarah, and Kazuha abilities to buff Raiden damage. You can change Kazuha into Severus in case you want to use your Kazuha in another team, since they both more or less buff Raiden about the same number. Now, with the advent of Dendro element, my party, if I must use Raiden with a Dendro, is Raiden, Nahida, Kuki, and Xinqiu. Kuki obviously provide healing, although not very much. You can change Xinqiu to Furina since she also provides heat direction and also buffing overall damage for your team. I want to mention that if you feel that you like so much healing from Kuki, you can change her to a Dendro healer like Yao Yao, or even better, Baisu. However, I don't level up bot and I don't have Baisu, so for me, the most free-to-play option for Raiden is just to use Raiden National and have an easy life. Simple. So after all those times, Raiden is still very powerful. Heck, I even 12 star this a piece with Raiden National Party. It is that powerful. I enjoy playing her when she was released, and even all those years playing with her, she is still very fun and strong. So definitely guys, pull for her. For you beginner, just pull her. Trust me, she will make your life easier in Genshin Impact. So, with all being said, I hope this guide is helpful for you, and my next video will be about Kinit, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Host is out.